How's it going today, guys? It's the real Mother Rucker, and today we're going to be talking about which Halo has the best soundtrack. Now, I know you guys are going to be in the comments posting which one's your favorite. Comment which one's your favorite, and then let's see if your opinion changes by the end of the video. Let's get straight into these 5 categories. Category 1 is going to be the main theme. This is the track that sets the tone for the entire score and really sheds light onto the rest of the supporting tracks. Category 2 is going to be the supporting tracks, basically every single song that isn't the main theme that shows up in the game. Category 3 is going to be the musical cues. Now these are basically whenever the songs play in a cutscene or gameplay to heighten the story or what is happening. We got category 4 as well, which is the emotional impact. Now this is how the music makes you feel and how it affects the tone in the game. And lastly, we've got the originality. Now this is just how original and how different it is from the other soundtracks in the series. There's going to be timestamps throughout the timeline of this video stating each position from 8 to 1st for each game in the series. So if you guys get bored at any point and you just are tired of me talking, just skip to the next ranking and just keep going from there. I'm only going to be going over the main 8 FPS entries though, so no Halo Wars or any mobile games. Each game will be scored based on its time of release and how gaming soundtracks were at the time. Coming in at number 8 is Halo 5. First, we got to start out with its main theme. Now, its main theme is Halo Canticles. Now this track is a tricky one because a lot of people really like it because it's very reminiscent of the original Halo soundtrack, but me personally, I feel like it is too fan servicey considering there's not a single Halo ring in this entire game. I honestly think it's just backlash and rebuttal from Halo 4's theme and how much people didn't like it, so I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10. It's a good implementation and the music itself is good, but in terms of a main theme and what it means for the game itself, I feel like it does not represent the title very well. So coming in for supporting tracks, I've got it at a 4 out of 10. The entire time that I was listening, it never really felt like it knew what it was trying to be. It had a lot of really epic sounding tracks, but they were mostly during cutscenes and during times where there was a lot of action going on, but it didn't really mean a lot to me. Category 3, musical cues. I thought that this game had pretty decent musical cues. There's a lot of notable ones considering the beginning of Halo 5 where they jump out of the ship, Fireteam Osiris, and the title of this track is Light is Green, and this song heavily shows a lot of the epicness that Halo was missing for a little bit of time there, and I thought it was decent for sure. There's a lot of really decent musical cues in this game itself, but to me it fell kind of short. I don't think it was bad, but I just don't think in terms of a Halo soundtrack that it did an exemplary job. So moving on to 4, we have the emotional impact. Now, I feel like it did a good job, obviously, of setting an epic tone and giving us a grand soundtrack, but a lot of tracks in here are filler and do not sound like Halo and do not give us the feels that Halo gives us. There's not a lot of emotional equity that shows us just what it means to be playing this series. So I'm going to be keeping this at a 6 out of 10 as well because it does a decent job in a lot of areas, but not in other areas. Finally, we have the originality, which I also think is a 6 out of 10, and this is mainly because they tried to do something different, and I can respect that, but I don't think that it was executed even as well as Halo 4 was. Even though Halo 4 was jarringly different, I feel like it captured the tone and the feeling that it was trying to give off. I guess that's just kind of the theme of Halo 5 in general, and that's that it doesn't really know what it's trying to do. Overall, this is going to bring the entire score to a 5.6 out of 10. Coming in at 7th place, we've got Halo 4. Now, Halo 4's main theme is Atonement. A lot of people hate on this song a lot for it being like too different in tone from the originals, but I actually like this song for a main theme, and for Halo 4 specifically. I don't love it, but I do like it a lot more than I like Halo 5's. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. I think that it captures exactly what it needs to, but it's nothing compared to the others. In terms of supporting tracks, I think that they're actually pretty good. They're not to the same level as the games before it, but I still think they did a good job. There are some that stick out like a sore thumb and aren't very good, but Requiem, Wreckage, 117, and Green and Blue, and Never Forget Midnight are really, really good orchestral songs. I even consider Requiem to be one of the best songs in all of Halo, and you can fight me on that. And that's going to go straight into the musical cues. Now, I think the musical cues are an 8 out of 10, and if you think of some of the most notable musical cues in the game, you think of Requiem, which happens when you see the Forerunner structures on the second mission after you walk through the cave. And I remember when I first saw that, when I was playing it for the first time, I was in awe. I got chills, and that's not even fanboy from me. Like, it captured that scene so well, and that's probably the best cue in the entire game. If every cue in this game was like that cue, it would be 10. But they're not all as good. Cortana's death has a really good cue as well, and the song matches it very well as the homage that gets paid during the mission where you see the Halo ring. So overall, I think that the music cues in this are great. I also cannot forget about that jet run in the last mission. When it comes to the emotional impact, I think that this has a 9 out of 10 emotional impact. I think it makes you feel a lot, and it makes you feel like everything, like the tone is matched by the music very well. It is not perfect, and it is not as good as some of the other games, but when I compare how emotional I got from the music and when it played in the game compared to the other games, it's right up there with a lot of them. When it comes to originality, though, I think it kind of falls short in a lot of areas. It's not a good evolution of the game, and that's why I think I have it at a 6, because I don't think it's mediocre or even bad. I think it's just kind of a decent rendition. It was done decently, but I don't think it was anything crazy. It definitely could have been done better. So overall, this is going to bring it to a total of a 7.4 out of 10 for Halo 4. And my favorite song in this game was Requiem. Coming in at number 6, we've got Halo Infinite. People probably have this all over the place, but overall I think this has a great soundtrack. The main theme, though, for Category 1 is Zeta Halo, and I think this is a great depiction of Halo Infinite. It captures a lot of the essence of the original games, but gives it its own flair, and I think that this is finally when they realized and brought the soundtrack of Halo back. In terms of Category 2, we've got the supporting tracks here. I've got it at a 9 out of 10, and the reason I've got it at a 9 out of 10 is because we've got a lot of great tracks here that scream Halo, and it's given us life into the game that we haven't felt since Halo 3, and that's hope. That's the theme that goes through in a lot of these songs, and we're going to get to this more in the next categories, but the first supporting track I'd like to mention is Reverie. Now, this is a really good track, as well as The Road, which plays in the end drive sequence. We've got Through the Trees, a rendition of Walk in the Woods. Finale, which is a rendition of Epilogue in Halo 2, which is one of my favorite Halo songs of all time, and that was a really good ending. We've got Silent Auditorium, we've got Escherum, Echo 216, Endless, What Makes Us Human, We Do It Together. And We Do It Together, although I don't know a lot of people noticed, is Luck from Halo 3, but evolved. And I thought that was a really nice touch. So overall, I thought we had some amazing supporting tracks here, and I look forward to what these artists do in the future with DLC. Now, next we've got the musical cues. I think they're great. They're not to the same level as some of the other games, but some key ones that I really loved are in the beginning, after the warship Gabrakan, when Chief is floating in space and he sees the ring and Reverie plays. It is the most perfect, blissful sound.
I'm here.
I couldn't have thought of a better song to put there. The Road felt really good as well with the original upbeat sounding cello. We've got Finale, which was my favorite musical cue and really made me want to put this at 9, because that is just the best song to end a game, and I didn't think they were going to have a callback like that to Halo 2, because there weren't really a lot of Halo 2 callbacks besides some dialogue. But no, that was just literally almost made me tear up. It was so good. And we also have to think about some of the other Endless tracks and how they were cued, because they gave a very ominous feeling, and although they didn't get shown in the game, I was very happy for the kind of tone that they were giving, because the Flood gives off a different type of song in the originals, and I'm glad that they realized that with the Endless here. In terms of emotional impact, I gave it a 9 out of 10, and that's because of how much this game puts you in your feels and makes you, draw on nostalgia. That nostalgia obviously draws from the other games, but they were able to implement it into this game without copying every single song. It was the most perfect evolution of Halo vibe from the original 3 games that I could, honestly, mostly put for Halo 3, but I was very happy with this. It definitely got me a little bit choked up in some moments. Now for category 5, originality, we've got a interesting one here. I think that it's very original. Even though it plays a lot on the original Halo vibes, I think it does it in such a way that it's so different, yet so the same, You guys get that feeling too? Like, that's why I think it deserves a 9 out of 10 and not a lower score, because I don't think it's necessarily perfect. It was really close to being perfect. Some of the tracks, I thought there couldn't possibly be a better way to implement them, but there's some here and there that were just kind of like, oh, it's whatever. Like, I don't know. There was some underwhelmingness to it, but overall I thought it was amazing. So when it comes down to it, Halo Infinite's final verdict is going to be an 8.6 out of 10 for its score. Coming in at the 5th place spot, we've got Halo Reach. Now, Halo Reach is a tricky one when it comes to the Halo community, because some people think that it's just kind of mid, and then other people think that it's one of the best soundtracks in the entire series. I think that the main theme itself, Overture, is an amazing depiction of what the tone and atmosphere of Reach is. It shows the bombasticness in the drums, and it shows what it means to be in despair. It's different from ODST because ODST's is more isolation. Reach is more just epic despair, which I think was captured amazingly in this main theme. When we go to the supporting tracks, I think the supporting tracks are great, but I don't think that they stand out as much as the main theme does. We've got some great tracks here like Winter Contingency, Tip of the Spear, Exodus, New Alexandria, The Pillar of Autumn, Epilogue, Ashes, and Ghosts and Glass. And I really like most of this soundtrack and score itself. And I think it's more of what is happening and when it's happening and how it makes me feel than it is the music itself. And I think that's why the supporting track score is a little lower for me than the other scores on this list. For musical cues, I think it is a 9 out of 10. Very impactful in the right moments. It makes you feel all kinds of emotion. It makes you feel the rush of battle. It makes you feel the despair of death. It makes you feel the hopelessness of loss. It makes you feel all kinds of emotions, and it makes you feel them in the right moments. If you think about the some of the ones that I think about the most are the Winter Contingency mission when the Zealots come in and the electric guitar starts playing, and then George and Six go into that room with a night vision, as well as some others like in Tip of the Spear when you're jumping from the top of the spire to the Falcon, and the music there after the ship gets shot down by the Covenant was very, very grand. And the other really great ones I have to think of is The Pillar of Autumn. There's so much going on that is just crazy, and it just captures that on the run, we gotta go energy. But I think nothing compares in this game to the New Alexandria section. When Six is sitting in the back of the ship alone, and the music is playing from New Alexandria, it's just, whew, like that hits you in the feels. So that's gonna go straight into the emotional impact. We've got the feeling of despair and the unique emotions you cannot feel in any other game. It's truly special, and I think it deserves a 9 out of 10. I don't think they did a perfect job emotionally. I feel like they could have done a little bit better at making you feel like more, but honestly I can't really put my finger on what. I'm not a musician, so I wouldn't know, but I think that there's a little bit of room there for them to make you feel more, and I think that has something to do with how some of the previous games made me feel in moments. For originality as well, I'm gonna go with a 9 out of 10. I think that there was a departure from the original sound, but it shows right when the game boots up. As soon as you boot the game up, you're and you're just like, what? You're just like, this is not the same game, and you know that as soon as you boot the campaign up and you start playing it. So it's got to be a 9 here. Total score and verdict for this is an 8.8 out of 10. Great score, and my favorite song here was Overture. Coming in at number 4, we've got ODST. This is going to be a super hot take for ODST fans, and I really do like this soundtrack a lot, but you got to think about how many good soundtracks there are in this franchise. And I'm not just saying good, I'm saying pretty much masterpieces. And I'm going to give you the reasons why I believe this is lower than the next 3 games on the list. First, we got to start with the main theme, and I think this is the number 1 reason why this game is not in the top 2 to 3, and that is that it's a great song. It's a really great song, but when you think about it as a main theme, it's not really that great of a main theme. It's very forgettable. if you try and think about it, you don't even know which one it is, and it's Overture. But some may confuse Overture or Deference of Darkness, but I think that they could have came out with a stronger, more impactful main theme for this song, for this game, and I think that would have made this a masterpiece. When it comes to the supporting tracks, though, 10 out of 10. Deference of Darkness, Traffic Jam, Asphalt and Oblivion, Neon Night, Bits and Pieces, The Rookie, The Menagerie, Skyline. I mean, there's a bunch of bangers on this. Like, literally, almost every single song is perfect, and that alone is worth a 10 out of 10. When it comes to soundtracks or just albums in general, it's really hard to get every single song to be good. And this had some of the best supporting tracks in the series. We've got musical cues, which were amazing. I think 9 out of 10 for the musical cues. They perfectly fill the atmosphere in the right moments, but I do not think it was as impactful as Halo 3's musical cues, and I think that's the reason why I have it one below a 10. If it was in its own right, I think it would. It's really, really close, but for ranking's sake, I gotta put this at a 9. In terms of emotional impact, I think it really makes you feel immersed in an isolated world where you feel alone. And if you're playing this alone at night while it's raining outside with some headphones on, dude, it's a crazy ride for sure. But I think just coming off the heels of 3, you have to think about it, it's a lot less emotional. But I think that a 9 is a very, very admirable score for this. Lastly, we're going to go with the originality at a 10 out of 10, because there is just no way in hell anybody would have guessed that a jazz-themed soundtrack was going to be coming out for this game until they started talking about it. And when they did, everyone was probably thinking, oh my god, there is no way this is going to work. And I was wrong, and everybody else was wrong, because I mean, you can't misperceive what Marty can do with the music here, because he makes such a perfect atmosphere, and it is so different from every other game that it deserves a 10 for sure. There's not a single soundtrack out there that sounds like this soundtrack, and it's one of the best jazz soundtracks that I have ever heard. It is very unique. It mixes almost every single element from the other games into it perfectly. So overall, for ODST, we are going to give it a 9.2 out of 10. And my favorite song on here is Traffic Jam, and that's because it is just fucking badass. I think most people would say Deference of Darkness is their favorite, and that is a very admirable choice, but this is my sleeper pick. Moving on to our podium, we've got number 3, Halo 3.
This is the way the world ends.
Now, Halo 3 is an amazing soundtrack, and some consider it the best in the entire series. The main theme is, in my opinion, although it doesn't have an official main theme, is Never Forget. And Never Forget is an amazing track. The reason I have it at a 9 out of 10 though is because it's not as great of a main theme as the first 2 games. When you think of it, for its time of release, it is an amazing piece of music for a theme. But the perfection that the other 2 games set for the main theme was hard to match, and that's why I think it's a 9 out of 10. Now when it comes to the supporting tracks, I think it's a 10 out of 10. We've got RUCK, which is the intro song. We've got This Is the Hour, One Final Effort, Greatest Journey, Tribute, Roll Call, Choose Wisely, Released, Keep What You Steal, Wake Me Up When You Need Me, and Finish the Fight. Now, this soundtrack has some absolute bangers, and I think it's probably got the most well-rounded body of work in terms of supporting tracks. It has the most clear and concise vibe of the entire series, in my opinion, and I think the supporting tracks are what makes this game special. The way that they're implemented in the game makes them even more special. The reason I'm saying this is because the musical cues in Halo 3 are the best in the series. Every single musical cue in this game is straight fire. There are so many I could name. From the beginning, where in the intro where Luck is playing, from the crash landing to tribute at the end of the game when the ceremony is happening and the Arbiter got back to Earth and is talking to Lord Hood and everyone thinks that Chief is dead. The vibes here are absolutely amazing, and you have to think about the best musical cue of all time, and that is Halo at the very end of the last mission, Halo, on the Warthog run. It is the best, most emotional feeling mission I have ever played, and it is truly something that is so hard to capture, and the fact that they were able to capture that from the first game's Warthog run to the third and have it end the way it started with the same song, it was just mind-blowing. There's just so many in this game that I could count that I can't go on, otherwise this video would be forever. But when it comes to the emotional impact, I think that it is also a 10 out of 10. It is the most emotional and most Halo feeling soundtrack in the entire franchise. It embodies everything that is Halo, and that is why I think a lot of people think this is the best soundtrack in the series, and I can agree with you to a certain extent, but I think the reason that this game is not the best is because it is not as original as the first two games. It did not have as much original tracks. A lot of them were renditions of previous tracks, and it's hard for me to knock off points here, but I still think that it's great. I still think it's an 8 out of 10, even though they reused a lot of tracks, and that's because it's unique, nostalgic, and it doesn't feel like it's nostalgia just for the sake of nostalgia. It's the climactic ending to a trilogy, and they did an amazing job with this soundtrack. So overall, we're going to have a 9.4 final verdict for this game, and I think that Never Forget is the best song of Halo 3's soundtrack. Now, coming in at number 2, once you hear which game it is, you're going to know which one number 1 is. Number 2 is going to be Halo Combat Evolved, the one that started it all.
Like yesterday, da, 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 da. I actually decided to do a monk scale, which is Dorian. It's not a copy of the Yesterday melody, but the Yesterday melody inspired me to put that together.
A lot of people, I think, are sleeping on this soundtrack recently and think that some of the newer games have better soundtracks because of recency bias, but when you look back at the body of work and the time of release that Halo Combat Evolved had and what it meant for gaming and its soundtrack in 2001 was an absolute masterpiece. Like, obviously there are some shortcomings, like I'll get into them, but let's start off with the main theme, which is perfect. It's perfect, and Marty literally had the most amazing thing to say when explaining how he came up with this.
That the emotions for this piece should be ancient, mysterious, and epic. And so as I was driving, I thought, okay, ancient, monks are ancient, so I'm going to start with some sort of monk chant. and it's got to be hooky, it's got to stick in people's heads, and then we'll go into something sort of epic and pounding cellos and drums and stuff.
Now going into the supporting tracks, we've got some absolute bangers when it comes to supporting tracks. We've got A Walk in the Woods, Brothers in Arms, Covenant Dance, On a Pale Horse, Opening Suite, Truth and Reconciliation Suite, Ambient Wonder, which is Slept On, Under Cover of Night, and Devil's Monsters. But yeah, no, the supporting tracks, you already know. They're straight fire. No more need to say. Like, there's pretty much no bad songs on this soundtrack. So let's go to musical cues. We got 9 out of 10 for musical cues, and some people are gonna sit here and be like, "What? No way, bro! 10 out of 10." But you got to think about, for the time it was amazing to have music orchestrated into games this way. But I think looking back, some of the cues were used quite a bit, or didn't feel like they were quite perfectly put the way that some of the other games were, and that's why I think it deserves a 9, as well as emotional impact. I think is a 9 out of 10, and some might have it higher and some might have it lower, but I think this is a good spot for it because it made you feel fear, it made you feel wonder, and it made you feel a sense of discovery, and it made you feel all of these themes that surrounded the game, and in such a way that it was indescribable. People still consider this the best soundtrack in gaming of all time, and I can see why. Now, y'all already knew that the originality was going to be 10 out of 10 because it is the most original score in all of Halo, and one of, if not the most original score in all of gaming ever. There's not much more you can say about it. I mean, it's just stellar. Overall, we've got a 9.6 out of 10 soundtrack here. Some might say that it deserves to be a 10, and some people think it's lower, but I think this is a worthy number 2. Now, by now, you guys have probably picked up that Halo 2 is going to be in the number 1 spot. It's rightfully deserving of this spot in my opinion because it does everything right. It has everything that you would want in a soundtrack, and in my opinion, it is the pinnacle of gaming soundtracks. Firstly, we got to talk about the main theme. I think the main theme, Halo Mjolnir Mix, is an absolute masterpiece. If you have ever watched the Steve Vai recording in the studio with Marty and Mike, it is just absolutely amazing. Nobody has ever mixed rock and orchestra like this, ever. And in a game like this, it works so perfectly. Some people will say that it's not as good as the original, but I think that it is up to par with the original Halo theme. The supporting tracks are also a 10 out of 10. We've got the prologue, which also matches that rock theme. We've got Blow Me Away, which was one of, if not the most influential song for this game, which spawned so many montages, and it is even in a really, really fun part of the game in the Gravemind mission. We've got In Amber Clad, Peril, Unforgotten, Ghosts of Reach, Heretic Hero, Heavy Price Paid, High Charity, Mombasa Suite, Epilogue, Finale, Reclaimer, High Charity Suite. Oh my, there's a million songs on this that are bangers. and it's got to be a 10, instant 10. So musical cues, we've got 10 out of 10 as well. This is when gaming reached musical amazement. Beforehand, we had Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, have amazing scores for movies, and then this brought gaming up to par with that. Absolutely beautiful. All the musical cues are perfect. When you think about every single musical cue that went into this game was beautiful. In game, you got Peril on Delta Halo. You got the epilogue at the end of the game in the credits, which was perfect. It has the greatest range of emotions that you can think of in a game. Halo 3 obviously has the most Halo feeling, most bittersweet soundtrack, but this soundtrack's emotional impact also gets you way more hyped up because it implements rock really well into hypes scenarios. It implements sorrow, it implements so many themes perfectly. Like, you would think that something like this, with this level of variety in terms of music, would sound dumb or it would sound like out of place, but it honestly has such a perfect place in this game. It's just really amazing to even think that they were able to pull this off. Lastly, it's gonna come to the originality, and honestly, it's the most original thing I can think of when it comes to mixing genres together. I've never heard of such a crazy idea of mixing hard rock guitar solos and orchestra choir theme song together to make something like that. Like, it's just amazing what they were able to get done in the studio, and absolutely no one could replicate this. And that's also why I think this deserves a 10 out of 10, and I think that overall this entire score deserves a perfect 10 out of 10. My favorite song probably on the entire game's soundtrack would probably be Epilogue, but a close second would have to be Heavy Price Paid. Like, there's way too many on here for me to pick, but if I had to pick, it would be those. All in all, we've got 5 out of 5.6 at number 8. We've got Halo 4 at a 7.4 at number 7. We've got Halo Infinite at an 8.6 at number 6. We've got Halo Reach at 8.8 at number 5. Halo 3 ODST at 9.2 at number 4. The podium of Halo 3 at 9.4 in the 3rd spot. And then we have Halo CE in the 2 spot with a 9.6. And Halo 2 with a 10 at the number 1 spot. So there you have it. Halo 2 is the king of all of the Halo soundtracks. If you guys have a different opinion, leave it in the comments down below. I'd like to know what your guys' favorite is in the series, and if you're feeling into it, put all 8 in order from your favorites and what you liked and what you didn't like about them. That is my opinion. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you liked the video, leave me a like. If you didn't, leave me a dislike. But hope you guys have a good day. Subscribe, and hope you have a good one. Take it easy.